Hey, it's Marlene from ImageMaven.com. In this video, I'm going to be talking a bit more about the new to me Lumix 12 to 60 millimeter lens. Now, this is the Leica version of this lens, and it is f2.8 to f4, which means that at 12 millimeters, the largest aperture is f2.8, and at 60 millimeters, the biggest aperture you can use is f4. Now, this is not a new lens, but many of you may have got this with your Lumix G9 as part of your kit. But as per usual, I'm late to the party. Now, I bought this lens out of necessity. Previous to owning this lens, I basically used the 12 to 35 millimeter lens. Now, I got the 12 to 35 with my original Panasonic Lumix GH3 camera, which is probably, about 8 years ago now. And sadly, I damaged this lens, and I can't really use it outside anymore because I damaged the rubber ring that surrounds the zoom ring. I spoke to Panasonic. They said it couldn't really be fixed, and they recommended replacing it. But I still use the 12 to 35 in the studio, and I use it to film my YouTube videos, actually. It's fine for that. The 12 to 60 is great for landscapes, and you can even stretch it to do a portrait because 60 millimeters is equivalent to 120 millimeters, which is actually a decent range for a portrait lens. Back in the day when I was shooting film, I had an 85 millimeter lens for portraits. Now, I need to mention there's two versions of the 12 to 60 millimeter lens for their Lumix Micro Four Thirds cameras. This is the professional version of this lens, so it goes from f2.8 to f4, as I mentioned. There's a consumer version of the lens, which goes from f3.5 at the widest zoom, so at 12 millimeters, to f5.6 at 60 millimeters. So it's what we call a bit of a slower lens. This lens is faster, not a super fast lens. I find that in certain situations I really have to jack the ISO up quite a bit if I'm in lower light. I took this lens on a holiday with me recently, and it was great to have this zoom range and basically just use the one lens the whole time. I did take my 100 to 300, but really didn't pull it out very much. I've tested it for fringing, and you can see here on these still shots of this feather arrangement that there's really no fringing at all, even when you zoom in close. Another thing I tested it on was birds outdoors, and I set my camera on a tripod and I used the Wi-Fi remote and the Panasonic image app, and I captured some great images of birds at the bird bath and at the feeder, and I was just blown away with the sharpness of this lens. And if you're interested in how that's all set up, let me know in the comments below and I'll do a quick tutorial on setting that up. So this lens actually comes with a kit, currently in Canada at least, with the GH5 as well as the G9. The consumer version of this lens comes with the GX9, the G95, and the G85, and probably some other combinations around the world. So what do I like about this lens? I feel it's very well proportioned and weighted for use with the Lumix G9. It's a heavy camera to begin with compared to some of the other Lumix cameras that I've used and that I'm using. It has an autofocus, manual focus switch on the side, and it overrides the autofocus manual in camera. So it's easy to switch that on and off, as well as the optical image stabilization. And if you hold your camera like this, they're well positioned to just switch them with your thumb. So that's quite a handy, thing. And most lenses, let's face it, have these switches where your thumb would be when you're holding your camera this way. I really like the locking lens hood. How many times have you not put your lens hood in the right way and you get vignetting on your super wide angle shots? Guilty. Now, I did some bokeh tests at 25, 40, and 60 millimeters with the lens wide open. Now, of course, it's not the bloom you get with a full frame sensor, but I think it's quite lovely. I also tested this lens on some skateboarding photos and was just blown away. I normally like to shoot really close up with my 7 to 14 millimeter lens, but I thought I'd try this one out. Basically shot it at 12 millimeters, the widest it would go, and you can see from this photo here that it is incredibly sharp. You can see the hairs on Roger's legs. There's no fringing. It's backlit, sharp, crisp, good contrast. I love this lens. What don't I like about this lens? Basically, what I don't like is the variable f-stop, especially when shooting in manual mode. I shoot my videos in manual mode in the studio, and sometimes I like to zoom in on what I'm shooting, and I don't like the fact that the f-stop changes when I zoom closer or farther away, and I have to remind myself to change the other exposure parameters, whether that's ISO or shutter speed. And now, of course, shooting video, I don't like to mess with my shutter speed too much. So you have to change your ISO, and well, that isn't really ideal for me either. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and we'll see you soon.